Hello, everybody. Welcome to American Scouser podcast. Today we have Tim with us and myself, Timucin, going over the great Napoli victory. Everybody else has celebrated too much to be able to participate in the podcast. Sounds like Tim. So, what did you think? Let's start from all the way from the beginning. I kind of tried to avoid all like social media and everything like that in the morning, kind of like focused on work, so I wouldn't think about the game. So, what did you think when you saw the first lineup? I kind of know what you thought, but what was your thinking when you saw the starting 11?
I wasn't thrilled with the midfield. I'll be honest. I thought it was going to be more of the same as the defense gets the ball out, it hits the midfield, and then they stop and they pause and they wait. Um, I get that we only needed one to win, but we also could have needed three to win. And if you would have asked me, I would have thought that winning 3-1 was much more likely than winning 1-0. But like at the end of the day, it worked out. I was pleasantly surprised with how well he played. Hendo, I mean, I'm not his biggest fan. I'm not a detractor either, but he did what a captain needed to do. He was steadfast. He got the team going in the right way. He played well. He got tracked back, solid defensively, made great passes going forward. Um, Genie and Milner, they're professionals. What else can you say about them? And at the end of the day, we got the one goal that got us through, and that's all you can really ask for.
Yeah, I thought it's a good word to explain those guys too, professional. I mean, I thought, like, when I first, I'll be honest, like, when we were talking on the podcast over the weekend, I kind of expected either Keita or Shakira in there only because we needed the goals. But when I saw the lineup, it kind of made sense because we just did not want to concede. Because if they got one, that was almost like too hard to come back from to score like 3 goals. So I thought it was kind of smart to come out with that midfield that was probably our most solid defensively. And yeah, I mean, Henderson did an excellent job. I was looking online for everybody who was moaning about midfield, Henderson and stuff like that. Of course, everybody scattered around and nobody was there to give him his props. But I thought he played an excellent game. Genie had an excellent game. And Milner is almost unfair to the guy, but he's so consistent. And he gives you the same hard work every game. And I thought we did excellent in the midfield from beginning to the end. That made really the defense look good as well.
Oh, absolutely. And with a bit more clinical finishing from Mane, that game could have got to 4-0, 5-0. We wouldn't have had to sweat it out at the end. Only really at the tail end, the last 5 to 10 minutes of the second half, I thought Napoli had a chance to score. But other than that, it was just the game went as we willed it to go on. We controlled it from the beginning whistle to the end, and it was just a solid performance. Which is funny because a year ago, if you would have said this team's going to come out and win 1-0 and we're going to be comfortable, people would have laughed at us. Like there's no way you're only going to score one goal and not concede. You're going to have to score three or four because you're going to give up one or two. And it just shows how far this team has come defensively and even system-wise. That everybody knows their role, everybody gets back on D, and it's just a solid squad. So a great win.
I just thought they were. I mean, we were so solid. I mean, knowing the first half was 1-0, and you were like, okay, Napoli's gonna have a go at us, and it's like they could not. They could not even after they substituted and tried to get more bodies that would go in the box. They just did not have the time in midfield to be able to kind of turn, face the box, and cross the ball in. It felt like they just kept going backwards. And yeah, I mean, we should have easily had 3, 4. I mean, I know the second goal would not mean anything, but I felt like some of the earlier chances we had in the second half, if one of those go in, I thought the floodgates was going to open. And my prediction before the game was like a win that was like 4-2, because I thought it was going to be that kind of game. And I'll be honest, I did not think we would play that well defensively. It's like they were almost all they had was long balls, and like Van Dijk and Matip had an excellent game, and they did a really good job of holding that line where they were constantly either offsides, and they don't really, especially in the first half, they had no size up front to be able to get any of those air balls from like Van Dijk or Matip. So it was definitely I mean, all around, it's almost like hard. I thought Firmino in parts was frustratingly um, a lot of like misplaced passes. But man, I mean, I mean, the front three's pressure up front is priceless. Obviously, then it trickles down to midfield, and that makes the job easy for defense. So, out of all these great performances, who was your man of the match? It was a really tough one for me this game.
Um, I want to say Salah just because of the work he put in. This day and age, you get a lot of the goal scorers. They don't like to track back and play defense. They don't like to come back and get the ball. They just like the ball served up to them. They like to score, and that's it. That's what they do. But he was running through tackles, and that's the one thing I noticed on a few of those tackles. Anybody else would have went down to try to draw the foul, and he just ran through him. He stayed on his feet, or he tried to make a pass out of them. And every now and again, it wouldn't hurt. Maybe he goes down to get that call, but I mean, it just shows the type of player he is. He'd rather do it the right way than try to cheat a call out. My other man of the match, if it's close, would be Allison. I get he only made a couple saves, but that save he made in the 92nd minute. I mean, that's what you pay that money for. That's quality. That is, I mean, he doubled his value in that's why we got him. Because without that save, I mean, we're having a completely different conversation. And for him not to have a lot to do, and then when the moment comes, boom, he's there, he's clutch. That's what you kind of expect from him from now on. So I'd say Salah first, and then Allison, even though he only had one or two saves, he's a close second to me. How about you?
Yeah, I think I was gonna go with Salah too, only because I thought, especially in terms of the front three, offensively, he was the major spark. I mean, obviously, he scored the goal that he kind of created. I'm still not sure that was meant to go in the goal. I don't know if he was kind of like trying to get it towards the back post. It either goes in or somebody slides to tap it in. But I mean, yeah, he held the ball well. He created for others, and he worked his butt off. And I think like offensively, definitely he was like the brightest player on the field for us. Alisson, yeah, I mean, if anything, like you're saying, probably a total different conversation if that ball goes in at the end. And it kind of showed in a way how well the midfield played and our pressure up front was before. Because that when they were able to towards the end, obviously they were throwing everything, but when they were able to put that ball in the box, that's the couple of times. And I know it's the end of the game, everybody's a bit more tense and stuff, but those are the times they created a few half chances. I mean, that one obviously was a full chance that he saved. If anything, Mane should be buying him in dinner tonight. Because if that ball goes in, I think Mane's misses becomes a huge talking point. Whereas now it's just like a knee slapper, and we kind of move on and say, "Oh, he'll get out of his funk." But yeah, man, he missed some sitters, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he could have had a hat trick himself. It was just the one got called back for offside, which I mean, it was a good call. He was clearly offside. But other than that, man, he has that space on the left side. He's going to need to bang those home like he did last year. I don't know if it's a mental thing with him or what, but he just I don't know. He's a tick off, and that eventually may come back to haunt us. I don't know, you probably don't sit him a game. I don't think you can do that. Maybe his foot's still messed up from having the state or the stitches in it. Maybe that has something to do with it. But yeah, just going down the road. If he continues to miss those, I mean, that one of those goals could come back to bite us in the butt, and it would stink for that to happen based on how well he's played for us in the past. He's an integral part of our front three. He just I don't know a mental thing or what, but he needs to convert. But other than that, like you said, Bobby was a tick off. I don't know, but if we go as Mo goes. That's how it is. I mean, as long as Salah keeps playing like he is, I think he'll drag the rest of the front three forward. And if not, we have options. We have Sturridge, Origi, Shaq can come on. So it's they shouldn't be too comfortable. The front three should be too comfortable up front with just thinking their place is guaranteed to be penciled in on the weekend. There's just options behind them, which is nice to have.
I think so. I mean, if somebody needs a rest and stuff like that, and obviously, quality wise, I mean, this is our top notch. And I think the defensive work they do as that front three is what sets them aside from anybody that's going to come off the bench, like Sturridge, Shaqiri. I mean, yeah, they're going to pressure, but not the front pressure that these guys put on, the amount of running that these guys do up front. I mean, they made it really hard for Napoli to start building up anything. And like I say, they just kept going backwards. I mean, were you surprised to see how inept, I guess, Napoli looked? I mean, obviously, we should get a lot of credit for that, but were you surprised in like some of the things they were doing?
A little bit. I think it was a shock to them that when we decide to press, how quick back to the ball we are. I don't think we kind of did it when we were in Napoli, and we lost that obviously. But I think it's one thing to hear about it and hear about the Anfield crowd and the atmosphere. They think that okay, it's just it's a legend, it's folklore. But until you're in that situation, and then you have just guys running at you from all angles, it's like holy crap, like it's a real thing. And I just don't think they're ready for it. I think just the relentlessness. If you get by one guy, if you get by Mo, Milner's coming up to press you. If you get by Salt, or if you get by Mane, you got Genie coming up. I just don't think that they're ready for what they heard about, and hearing about it and watching it on tape is two completely different things than experiencing it in person.
And I think we're kind of, I mean, this was more of a Liverpool from last year, and not the Liverpool that played Bournemouth or the Liverpool that played Burnley. I think the biggest difference between this year and last year is the fact that we kind of change according to the game, and which kind of helps because the opponent doesn't know what's coming. Like so, it's harder for them to prepare for us. I mean, you don't know who's going to be in midfield. I mean, let's face it. At the end of last year, especially the last 2 3 months, I mean, you knew the ideal lineup. I don't think we didn't have the podcast then, but I don't think that would be a conversation. Everybody, we knew the lineup automatically because that's all we had. Whereas now you don't know who's going to be there. I mean, is Keita going to be there? How do you prepare for a team that you don't know the lineup at all? And not only that, our formation constantly changes, and that has to be making it hard for opponents to prepare for us. And I think they were more expecting this year's Liverpool, and we suddenly came out with last year's model where we're constantly like gegenpressing and did not let them breathe. And I think, like you're saying, I saw like an article earlier this week about Mertens kind of like mocking that this is Anfield sign, and he thought it was going to be this huge sign, and it was like too small. He couldn't believe that was like a big deal and stuff like that. I think the environment gets, yeah, like you're saying, I don't think they expected what was coming their way, and which the Italian league obviously has some stadiums that get loud, but I think the biggest difference is in the Premier League, especially the fans are really close to the action, whereas especially in Italy. Most of those stadiums, it feels like there's a distance between, yeah, it's loud, but they're not on top of you. I mean, over here, you're taking a throw in, and it feels like, 6,000 people are like leaning on your shoulders behind you.
Oh yeah, for sure. I noticed that. I was actually fortunate enough to go to Anfield last March. I was there for the Newcastle match and the Porto match, and even though I was up in a main stand, it still felt like we were right on top of the players. I've noticed that, especially when we play Napoli or even PSG, it seems like there's a track around it. It's a multi-purpose stadium, so the crowd is definitely more pushed back for the players. So, like you said, you're taking a throw and somebody's right in your ear, and I think just everybody on top of you like that, and the way the stadium is built, or it's just built straight up, that all that noise comes down. And at the end of the day, they couldn't handle it, and that's the great thing about having that Anfield advantage is when you need it, it's there for you. And the players draw off it, and Klopp just loves it. You could tell Klopp, I mean, anything positive that happens, he turns to the crowd, motions them to get up, get loud, stand on their feet, and that's what pushes you through at the end of the day. And it's a great thing to have.
I think so. I mean, they always, we always talk about these, like these special Anfield nights and stuff like that, and they were able to create that today. And I mean, the team feeds off of that. Our style, especially, feeds off of that. I mean, if you're a team that is kind of like sitting back, I don't know if that energy helps as much, but the way we play with that energy, so it almost like takes already our like hyped up energy and like takes it to the next level. And yeah, I mean, today was just it felt like it was nonstop. And like I say, we didn't let them breathe, and they kept passing it back, and it almost felt like they were always a step behind. And they have some really good players. I mean, some world class players. That's a pretty darn good roster. When I saw their starting 11, and including their bench, there's a lot of good players over there. And yeah, we made them look mediocre today. Obviously, we saw what they did to us in Italy. So what do you think was the biggest difference? I know they asked Klopp after the game, and he pretty much said everything. But I mean, why do you think this team, the way we played against them there, compared to the way we played against them here, is it just the stadium and the environment, or?
I think the environment helps a lot. I also think the desperation is that we knew exactly what we had to do to go through. A draw wouldn't have been good enough. Obviously, a loss would have been catastrophic. But it's easy to go into a match where hey, if we can get one on them and hold them to a clean sheet, we go through. And I just think it was knowing that, and there's just something about this team under pressure that they come through time after time under Klopp. I don't know if it's the players we brought in. I mean, Van Dijk, you could see him every time he would have to make a clearance. He would be yelling at the fullback, right back, left back, whoever. Hey, why that ball get brought in? Why couldn't you stop that? He was directing traffic. At one point, him and Hendo kind of got into it on his yellow card, which at first I was like, you're kind of, Hendo shouldn't be going at him like that. But at the same time, that's just two alpha males wanting to win the game. And that's great to have that, on the pitch. Here's what I saw. Here's what I saw. You can't let that happen again. But I think it's just going into it. You knew what you had to do. They knew the task at hand, and they got it done. And that's basically, the reason why they were able to pull it out.
I actually almost liked seeing that. I mean, it showed fire on both sides. I mean, we kind of know, how Hendo plays. I mean, he's always kind of like on fire, like, very, like the energy player he is in midfield. And obviously we know Van Dijk. I thought, yeah, it sounded like, I mean, obviously it was regarding, how he got exposed and had to get that. I mean, it looked clean in the beginning, but then when you watch the replay, it was a foul, and it probably could have been worse, really. But yeah, I actually kind of like seeing that. Yeah, you're saying, they're two alphas kind of going at it, and I thought it was productive. I mean, there are times where you see players arguing about something on the field, and you can kind of sense that these guys are falling apart. I just didn't get that sense from that interaction. It almost felt like these guys really want this, as opposed to guys just like bickering each other or blaming each other, which I thought was kind of like nice to see, really. So moving forward in this Champions League, obviously we don't know our full opponents yet, the draw and everything like that. I mean, obviously it's too early in the season. We don't know what's going to happen down the road, but how far do you see us going in this? I mean, obviously, probably going to be biased about a bit more after today's performance and dominance, but what's in your mind in terms of like how far we can go this year?
I think the semifinals would be a good place to reach. Last year we made the final, and that was just completely out of left field. Like, after everybody's complaining about we lost and how we lost, I said, back in August of last year, if we would have made the final, you would have taken that every day of the week. This year, I think with us pressing more toward to try to win the league, some of the focus might be brought off the Champions League, just trying to fight on two fronts. But I think if we can make it to the Final Four and a good showing, I mean, there's really nobody though in Europe that I'm scared of. The big boys aren't so big and bad anymore. They all have their faults. So and depending on how the draw goes and who we match up against, and like I said, you always get that second leg at home in front of the Kop and everybody going nuts. Who knows what can happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think the draw would make a huge difference. Like you're saying, nobody really looks great right now, but obviously it's early in the season. By the time these games are played, it's a lot later. But I feel like, you want, obviously it's biased. Maybe if you asked me like a couple of weeks ago, I wouldn't have probably given the same answer. But it almost felt like, with today's performance, they can go against anybody. But having said that, I don't know how much of a damage. Obviously, our away performances have to be much better to be able to not come back to Anfield every time and need like a certain score and stuff like that. Because happens once, happens twice. The third time, you're not going to be able to squeeze that through. So, but I feel like, I mean, when you compare this team this year compared to last year, and I'm not talking styles and everything like that, but when you look at the squad alone, I mean, it's such a huge upgrades throughout. I feel like unless something happens that is not foreseen, the potential to go all the way is still there. I mean, we have a
Oh,
goal.
no, it absolutely is. Um, which it would have been, been nice last final whenever Sala went out if you could have brought on a Shaqiri um, to take his place. But that's it's water under the bridge. But yeah, I mean, like you said earlier, how we can set up different lineups, different formations, and place different ways depending on what the outcome needs to be. I don't think there's really anybody that you could look into us playing against where you say, all right, we'll be lucky to squeak out a draw and maybe get a result at home. I mean, I think if we need be, we can go at them. We can outscore teams like Barcelona, teams like Juve. I just don't think there's anybody out there right now that we should be afraid of. And getting a draw would be a best result. Draw. We should be saying, all right, we can settle for a draw. That would be okay, but we should be able to win almost every match against any team we play against.
I think so too. I mean, I feel like the way we're set up enables us, the squad enables us to play a few different ways. And based on our opponents, I kind of have faith in Klopp to pick the right option, if you will, and go at him in a certain way. I was very impressed with how we suddenly changed the identity today and played a total different way. And it was like, the team that played against Bournemouth was not really the team that played against Burnley in terms of, how we approach the game. And I think that flexibility is what he was kind of craving for last season as well. And, barring any injuries, looks like we have that squad right now. We have the depth in the squad to be able to do some of the things that he wants to do. So having watched this game, like we were saying, in the beginning, you kind of, I know most fans at least want to see Fabinho out there, want to see Keita out there, and I don't know if it's only because they're new, or like obviously they're more, especially in Keita's case, they're more exciting to watch, if you will, compared to watching maybe Milner, but like boring Milner. But so in your mind, who do you think is our best midfield right now?
I would say you could have Keita in there for sure, and then maybe Fabinho, and then if Genie and Hendo and Millie, they could all rotate in and out. It's nice to have the creativeness and the genius of a Keita back there, where he can get the ball, he can just make things happen with his feet. He can just run through players, make defenders miss. And if you have somebody like that, you can afford to have a Hendo and Millie back there is your defensive backs, not defensive backs, but as your defensive midfield to back him when he does decide to go forward. It worked out today, but I just think going forward you can't have Genie, Hendo, and Millie all in there just because of the pace as you get deeper into the Champions League. It's going to get tougher and it's going to get faster. And I just think all three of those guys at the same time is your best option. So if you're going to play 2 out of 3, I think you need to have Millie or Hendo and Genie in, but you need a Kaita or you need a Shaqiri in, just change it up from time to time, just to keep the opposition honest a little bit.
I think so too. It's kind of like I guess I kind of asked of a trick question too. I mean, it really depends on sometimes the opponent too, or what we're after. I mean, for what he was trying to do today, which was to kind of not concede and hope we get a goal up front with the quality we have up front. I mean, yeah, that trio works, but I mean, we saw how they got outpaced against PSG when we went there, and I don't know, that was just because of that game and our kind of like a streak of bad away performances, because it didn't look the same way when they were in Anfield when we won that game. I know, we let them come back, but still, we were like, I thought we outplayed them that game, and it was, this pretty much the same midfield. But you're right, I agree. I mean, I think we gotta be able to work in either Keita or Shaqiri in that midfield as the attacking player, if you will, or to make it a front four as opposed to just a front three. And it really depends on the front three as well, though. I mean, I think we were successful last year because even though we had this midfield that's maybe not as creative or as offensive minded, the front three were on such fire that was almost not needed. Whereas we're not totally clicking. I mean, I like the fact though that we are getting into these situations. I mean, yeah, Mane could have had a hat trick by himself today, but I think it's nice to see us to be even in those situations because some of the games we played earlier in the season, it was almost like we were finding it hard to get into those situations. So, I mean, do you see any change that, I mean, anything that you see that's changing, or do you just think it was just a matter of time anyway?
No, I think it's just a matter of time before the front three starts to click again. Like I say, Mane converts on two of those chances. I mean, this is we're talking about how we completely blew him out. Napoli didn't belong on the same field as us. But the fact that he did it and we had to sweat it out, we're talking about how great it was, how defensive they were able to be, how cool it was for them to keep a clean sheet. I just think they're still, I mean, as well as we're playing, we're still not playing the best. I would say we're maybe playing overall 7 out of 10, 6.5 out of 10. It seems like if Salah's on, Firmino and Mane aren't. If Firmino is, Mane and Salah aren't. All three of them, I don't think, have come together really yet to show the fireworks that they had last year. And when they do, we better hold on because it's going to be one hell of a ride.
Oh yeah, I mean, just think about it. That's this is what I was thinking about earlier today when I was watching like the post game shows and stuff like that. I mean, we're like, oh, the front three is not clicking. We don't have the midfield settled yet and everything, and we're on top of the league and through to the next round in Champions League. And if this is with us not clicking, people should be scared when this front three really clicks. I mean, both in the league and away. And I think the fact that we have people that we're not going to run these guys into the ground, and we have a deeper squad is just going to help, and we're not going to have. Because I mean, last year towards the end we struggled with some of like the easier games in the schedule, if you will, and I think it was partially because these guys were tired from Champions League, and not only physically, but I think it was partially psychologically too. I mean, a night like this kind of can take a lot away. It's kind of draining. Heck, I'm drained just watching it. So, so how do you think this translates? I'm sure we'll talk more about it on Thursday's podcast, but how do you think this game translates into the weekend's game against United?
I think it just carries on. If we were able to shut down Napoli today with our defense, I don't know what United's going to be able to do. Of course, I'm biased. I hate United with a passion. Like I think you said on the last podcast, you consider United a bigger rival than Everton, and I'm the same way. So I think if we could keep a clean sheet against them, and you could score 10 goals at the weekend, it's still not enough. I hate Mourinho. I hate how he plays. I hate his demeanor on the sideline. He acts like how he's better than everybody. Fellini, I know he shaved his head, whatever, but he had a dumbass clown haircut from years back. I just hate everything about United. So if you can score 5, 6, 7, 8 goals, that's still not enough. Yeah, I think if you just go at them, I mean, they're going to park the bus. They're going to be scared to concede, but the way we've been playing, we can now break down the defense like that, I feel. So let Marino park the bus. We'll figure out a way around it. We'll score 1 or 2. Then they'll try to counter, and then we'll go back and get 4, 5, 6, and 7. And it's just going to be a complete blowout, I hope, anyway.
I hope so, too. I mean, like I said, to me, the United game is a lot more important than even the Everton game to me personally. I mean, if I had to pick one win, this would be the game against United. And not only that, I really feel like we're going to get a favor from Everton. I was almost happy to see them kind of not get the win this week and semi-struggle and things like that. I really feel like that team has a lot of good players at Everton that kind of get up for bigger opponents. They played us really well. They played United really well. So I'm hoping we might get a favor from them. And, they might trip City again. And that could really give us an extra boost against United. And man, wouldn't that be something if we could kind of like extend that lead even further?
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. Because right now I just feel like us and City just might just flip flop all the way throughout the rest of the season. We have them on January 3rd at third place, but even so, I feel like it could just be week to week who wins, who draws, who doesn't play that week due to a cup tie or whatnot. So yeah, it's going to definitely exciting for sure. But it would be nice if Everton could do their neighbors a favor and get a result against City.
Yeah, like I say, I just hope that this game. I know there were a couple of injury worries. Trent's, which Klopp both said they were. Obviously Milner was having cramps when he came up, but those are just cramps. I really feel like I don't think he was gonna start this weekend anyway. I think we kind of used him more 90 minutes as a right back against Bournemouth, and almost 90 minutes today. But the more concerning one was, I think, Matip getting scans done because of a potential shoulder injury. That could hurt. I know it's not fair on Lovren because he kind of like just got rushed into the game, but he kind of seemed uncomfortable when he came in. Obviously, a week of practice and everything like that will kind of bring out a different Lovren coming up, but he looked uncomfortable to say the least. And I know he was playing in like another familiar position, just kind of like thrown into the game. That was very intense to start with. I mean, it can't be easy coming into a game like that in this position. But that would be a concern because I thought Matip played excellent today.
I thought he did too, but I think looking ahead, if you can arrange your back four, Lovren has a player he has to guard like Lukaku, who's a bigger guy who's not super quick, doesn't have a bunch of pace. I think you'll be all right there. Just have Lovren shadow Lukaku and just have Van Dijk just cover the other 9 players out there because I think he can do it at this point.
I should hope so. So we'll talk more about that on Thursday. Any other thoughts from today's game? I know I'm finally kind of getting my senses back together because it was kind of intense, especially in the beginning. It just felt like it would be so cruel to have that game as a draw, especially after how well we played and the chances we missed.
Yeah, definitely. When they blew that final whistle, it was just like a sigh of relief. Okay, we made it, win it in advance, and then just focus our attention this weekend and beating the scum and up the Reds.
Yes, sir. We'll talk again on Thursday. Hopefully, lay out the game plan to beat United and celebrate another Liverpool victory this weekend.
Yes,
Take care,
sir.
buddy.
Sounds good. All right, man. You too.